Whether it's your baseball picks or your way too early football picks or your tennis picks, you got to pick them at Sports Interaction. Oh. That's right. It's Canada's sportsbook. Listen, before the game starts, live and play or how your favorite player will perform, doing it right since 1997, Sports Interaction is Canada's sportsbook with the most competitive odds. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. You head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. One more time, that's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 18 plus, please play responsibly. You obviously, night after night, when you came back from, I guess isolation, but when you came back to work, when hockey came back, baseball came back, basketball came back, you got to see highlights of every game. You get to see probably every game in one way or another. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that in terms of like the Bubble Hockey League and the way they finished the season?
I think it was absolutely incredible that they pulled it off. I didn't think they could do it. I thought it was awesome. I was thrilled that the NHL got through it. We can get into the style of hockey and all that if you want, but I just think that the fact that they pulled it off was absolutely amazing. I think the team that won deserved to win. I think the best team won, which I think is always good. I would love it if River Hockey was successful in the playoffs. We could talk about your Leafs if you want to, but River Hockey, unfortunately, is not successful in the playoffs. If River Hockey was, the game would be a lot more entertaining. Mm-hmm. But I was just super impressed that the NHL pulled it off. Like everybody, I love the first round. That's my favorite. And when I say first round, I don't mean the play-in. I mean the actual first round. Mm-hmm. But I just love how things get turned up in the playoffs. And I think it looked great too. I was like everybody going, what's it going to look like with no fans in the stands? Well, the NHL did a brilliant thing. They kind of eliminated the empty seats as opposed to baseball, who just said, "Oh, the hell with it." So, and it's easier for the NHL. They only have to do a couple of arenas, but it looked great. Kudos to the NHL, and I hope that the players and the league get back on the same page here now, and can pull it off again.
It seems like they will. Like it's, I know everybody's upset with each other, but I can't imagine a world where both sides want to lose that much money. I just can't.
Gary Bettman doesn't lose, right? If the last 30 years have shown us everything, when it comes time to negotiations, Gary Bettman doesn't lose.
No.
And I mean, I see the players' argument. The owners made an agreement 4 months ago that they want to change. And I see the owners' argument. Maybe they thought fans would be back in the stands by now. So like all great things, you got to meet in the middle somewhere, right? Like I'm in the basement because my wife sent me here, right? I wanted to do this up in the nice natural light, but she's conducting a conference now with where she works at Rogers. Boom, boom. And she's leading the conference. So she needs her loud, beady-eyed, slightly overweight, pale husband in the basement where he belongs. So my wife is the Gary Bettman of this house. She gets what she wants. And I realize that, I'm happy to be here.
But you're just in it for the love of the game, and that's why you always buckle.
That's right, Dangle. I always give into my heart. Very true.
If you let's talk about the style of play. And I actually, before we talk about the style of play, I do want to mention that one Ken Reid on this very show several years ago said the Leafs are going to have trouble in the playoffs because the game changes in the playoffs, and said they're going to need a little bit more grit and toughness. Yeah. And don't they go out a couple months ago, or I guess 6 weeks ago now, and address it in just that way? Zach Bogosian, Wayne Simmons. You can imagine. I don't see Joe Thornton as a tough guy, but he's a grizzled vet who's got the mental toughness that probably the team needs to learn. Are you going to celebrate here, or do you want to celebrate on Twitter later? Like, how do you want to say I was right?
You mean gloat?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm sure all your little analytical fans thought I was a dinosaur, and I do read the comments. I saw that I was the hockey dinosaur. The old dinosaur was right, analytics geeks. And I don't want to gloat, although I just did. No, I think you need both. I love skilled hockey. I mean, you look around this room, I got pictures of Lafleur, Gretzky, Bossy, but I also got pictures of guys who are tough. So I like it. I subscribe to the Brian Burke school of top six, bottom six. I'm not an analytics guy. I don't think I ever will be. I know I'm out of date. That's fine. I'm happy with it. I think, you almost need a team to get into the playoffs, and then you need a team to win in the playoffs. You need two. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing now. You need two different versions. And back in the day, 21 teams, 16 made the playoffs. You could play the same style the whole year. Now you got to adjust. I think the Leafs are addressing it. I don't think they're anywhere near close right now. Sorry, Dangle. But I think I give Kyle Dubas a lot of credit for going out and signing a Simmons, because it's tough to change. And I know that. I've been the same for 46 years or however old I am. I like the game old school, and Kyle Dubas likes the game new school, but he's changing, and I totally admire that. And I'm not dumb enough to think you can win with a team of fourth liners. You can't. You need skill, but you need guys to make room for that skill. And I think that's what a Wayne Simmons will do. You guys know I've talked about Josh Anderson on this podcast before. I've had a man crush on him since he was with the London Knights. I love the way he played. I love that the Montreal Canadiens went out and got him. And part of me says, okay, Wayne Simmons isn't enough. You can't win with just one guy like that. But then part of me has to realize, okay, the game has changed. Maybe one or two guys like that is enough as opposed to six. I think the Leafs need to be way tougher on the back end, way tougher. Jake Muslin's good. He's the one guy that plays with a little edge. It can't be just one guy on your back end. To me, you need at least three guys like that. But you can't change your roster overnight. So I think they're moving in the right direction. That should make you smile, Dangle.
It does. What I wonder is, okay, how about this? Can you think of a player who was not a tough guy, a tough guy at all when he began, and he didn't necessarily become one, but he became a player who didn't take any shit? Because what I keep saying with this team is you don't need to go out there and rack up 250 penalty minutes. You just need to, honest to goodness, once or twice a season, punch someone in the face.
Yeah, well,
because they got in yours.
That's how you make room, right? You got to do something stupid once in a while, and I think a lot of hockey fans don't realize that. Why did he do that? That was unprovoked. He did it to make room. It's the regular season's a marathon. The playoffs are a marathon. You got to make room. Can I think of a guy that became like that? Not off the top of my head, but it usually works the other way around, right? A lot of guys come into the league, used to back in the day, and they just beat the living pulp out of guys for a year, and then they'd get their room, they'd get their respect. Like when Lyle Odeline started with the Montreal Canadiens, he fought every night. Then later in his career, he didn't have to fight a lot because guys left him alone. So usually the way it works is you come in as a bit of an agitator, a bit of a PR, as Dennis Marouk would say, and you get your room. So you don't have to do it all the time. And I think if you kind of establish that off the top, you'll get your room. So I can't think of any guys who kind of came in as wimps and evolved into guys who didn't take any SHIT, but I think of a lot of guys who came in real tough, and then it seemed on the surface that they calmed down, but I think they only calmed down because they got their room. And I mean, you go back in time, like Doug Gilmour didn't take any crap off anybody. He was 165 pounds. Good God, Wendell Clark wasn't a giant. He took less crap than anyone in the history of the game. So and every once in a while, you got to explode. You got to freak out to get that room. Now, I don't know if you have to, but you got to let guys know that I'm not going to take that crap, because it really is all about room. And if you get that little extra bit, then you can make things happen on the score sheet, I think.
When you said
sorry,
what?
Is Ovechkin not a guy like that?
Yeah, Ovechkin, man. Yeah, he makes a ton of room for himself. He's huge. He hits like he's beyond tough. He hits like a monster. Sidney Crosby's tough in the corners. He's tough. There's a lot of guys that are tough, that are skilled and tough, that make room for themselves. Yeah, like, I mean, you don't have to be a guy that racks up a ton of penalty minutes, but I mean, do you want to go into a corner against Alexander Ovechkin? I don't think so, because every once in a while he just explodes and annihilates a guy. Look what he did to Svechnikov a few years ago. Beat the living tar out of him. That's a 19-year-old kid that's going, oh, I could fight Ovechkin. I've never seen him fight before. He's not that tough.
That is a miscalculation.
That is
I forgot about that.
That's like me at the Pick the Lobster Carnival, getting a few Alexander Keiths in me going, you know what? I can roll with the boys. No, know your role. Know your role. Know your role. So yeah, if you go back in the day, there was a lot of really tough players back in the day, and you'd look at their PIMs and you'd say, you didn't fight that much. And they'd tell you, I didn't have to. After a while, I didn't have to. So
Ryan Reeves has to fight like twice a season.
see, there you go. Exactly. He has to fight twice a season. No one's going to challenge him anymore, right? There's not a tough guy in every team to challenge him. Ryan Reeves makes more room for his teammates just by sitting on the bench. Like, if I read one more comment from some analytic dork who says Ryan Reeves is the worst player in the NHL, I'm like, you don't get it. Ryan Reeves makes his team bigger. And when I say bigger, he gives them more room on the ice. Ryan Reeves is a huge asset that any team in the NHL would want. Any team. And just because a spreadsheet says he's not the greatest player in the world, that doesn't mean he's not a useful player. I would take Ryan Reeves on my team any day. And Ryan Reeves, he's a good hockey player, man. He's decent. He's not going to hurt you when he's out there. He's not going to score 50 goals. But, man, he's a good hockey player.
We thought Pittsburgh were nuts. Didn't they pay a first-round pick for him, and then they dealt him like 40 games later?
When they got him, I said, finally, Pittsburgh's done the right thing, because Crosby's never had a designated protector in his whole career. They tried George Laraque. It just didn't click. But when they got Reeves, I said, finally, Pittsburgh's doing it. And when they traded him, I go, that's the dumbest trade they've made in eons. And it was. I mean, there's just because you don't show up on the score sheet doesn't mean you're not useful. But I say that because that's how I justify my midget C career. You know, I was on the PK. You know, I saw it.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
Yeah.
With Reeves in Pittsburgh, I mean, we questioned the trade at the time, but if they paid a high cost, if you're gonna make a decision, stick to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stick to it, right?
And that's the other thing, right? With modern sports fans, there's no patience, right? People go, oh, they got to at least get rid of Dubas. I'm like, no, they don't. This is his vision, man. He's got to see it through. And just because I'm not philosophically aligned with it doesn't mean he's not correct. I could be the one who's wrong, and that's another thing about society today. No one will admit they could be wrong, right?